Hello, welcome to Mel Made. My name's Mel and this is a podcast all about the things that I have made. I am a hobby knitter and I am based in the northeast of England in the UK. It's been a really beautiful Sunday today in February. I don't even know what the date is. I think it might be February the 22nd at the moment, at the time of recording. And I am losing a little bit of light now. It's about 4:30, but we've still got a little bit of daylight, which is really nice. The days are getting longer because we're getting towards spring. It's been quite mild for this time of year in the UK. We're getting some colder nights again now, but spring is in the air and I've probably spoken too soon. I do think, obviously I live in my own little world. I'm sure I caused the warmer weather by knitting a really thick jumper, but we'll get onto that later. But let's get straight into the knitting. I have finished objects this time. I didn't last time, and as you can see, I am wearing my finished Archer's cardigan. You can't see it all here, little stand up there, but I will put some footage in of me wearing it or a photograph. I'm going to come quite close and show you the really lovely little buttons that I got. Is that focusing? Yeah, I got these from a shop in the Cotswolds when I was visiting my family. Live down that way. Ooh. You can see that there. I'm really happy with it, as you can probably tell. There's lots of slightly maniacal pictures of me wearing this. I might even open it so that you can see. I think the insides come out quite neat. I'm quite pleased actually, because I don't always think I'm that neat, but I must have got into a rhythm with it. This is a pattern from, where's the book? This is a pattern from Hand Knits by Raumer. And I saw this, I've gone over the story of trying to find this pattern before, but I saw this pattern being knitted on the Knitting Traditions podcast by Inge, and a really cool green and white version. And I had to search everywhere for the pattern because I think it's what originally was in Norwegian. I managed to find this book on, I think it was eBay in the end. I don't know if it's new. Hang on, let me just check the date. The dog's sighing. Well, it says it was published in 2021, but I got the impression this might be a second-hand book. I don't know. But it came looking as good as new. And it's beautiful, and I managed to find it. On the front, you can see it there, but it's in reverse, so all the blues are whites and the whites are blues. That's that version on the front. Look how many beautiful patterns there are in this. I mean, look at that. Those are great. So, I mean, it was a really good buy. Here is the one that I did, and sort of brown and white version there. I really like the original colours, so I stuck pretty close to those. You might be able to hear from my voice, I have not been well the last couple of weeks. I'm on the mend now. But yeah, I might have to stop and cough and pause and cut the coughing out because you don't need to hear that. Yep, so I went for the original colourway pretty much, but this is not the recommended yarn. I used Jamieson's of Shetland double knitting in shades Petrol for the blue, which is sort of a tealy turquoisey blue, and natural white for the main colour. I think the double knit was slightly thicker than the original recommended yarn. I mean, the original recommended yarn was, would be Raumer. Hold on. It says CYCA Raumer Finul. So I think it was a tiny bit thicker than that. I've written down that I used 3.75mm needles, which seems a bit big, but it is a double, I suppose it's a double knit. And I managed to get gauge, so maybe I was a tiny bit bigger. I knitted the size large and it came out big. I wanted it oversized, and it is oversized. It could have been bigger and I would have been happy, but I was knitting the women's large, and I know that Inge knitted a really big one. She might have knitted the men's size. I'm just not totally certain about that, but she's taller than me. I'm really Really, really pleased how it turned out. I think I talked a lot about this in my previous episodes, so I'll just tell you that I'm really happy. Yep, so some of the other patterns in here, I've got off on a tangent there about my lovely book, is, oh, this one's quite fun. But look at that. Look at that. That's great, isn't it? So, I mean, it was a really good buy. I'm really happy with it. I think it goes from easy, there's a striped one, a really long cardigan that's quite plain. There's too many to just put them all up individually. I might put a video up of me flicking through it, but I'm just careful not to show things. This is nice. Look at that dress. That's lovely. That's the Florina dress. There's a round yoke pullover one there. There. I'm trying to show it without showing any of the pattern. There. Does that work? That one was the round yoke pullover with endless pattern. Oh, this is cool. This is quite retro. Dress with fine stripes. I might need to just put pictures up of these. So there's some sort of original old-fashioned patterns and they've sort of updated them. And there's sometimes pictures of the older patterns that they're based on, which is rather lovely. There's a men's sweater here, men's pullover with shifting cables. Quite a nice one for the men in your lives. Titan cabled pullover, that's cool, I like that. So yeah, this is a brilliant book. If you can find it, I recommend it. I'll have to look up and see if I bought it new, but if I remember rightly, I might have found it on Amazon. Would have been eBay or Amazon. There's also some mittens, some socks, plain mittens. The socks are rather quite cool. Same colourway. Yeah, so I really, really recommend it. It says it's by Bente Presterud. So I think I've put that before. I'll put it up again. Lovely, lovely book. I always like a nice knitting book. So yeah, I don't know if there's anything else I can really say about this. I just tried to wear it outside. I'm wearing a short sleeve jumpsuit, denim jumpsuit, if that's what you call it. And I just tried to go out for a walk. I think it's about 4 degrees outside Celsius. And it was a bit windy. It's not looking like it's windy now, but it felt windy. And I did feel a chill coming through the holes in the cardigan. So, but it is warm, but I think you need more than one layer today. I don't think that's the fault of the cardigan, and it's because it's nice and oversized, I can sling it over the top of other things and it's really cozy, and I keep wearing it around the house. I actually wore it to A&E the other week, but I'll tell you more about that later. And it's a very much, I think it's already got a lot of wear, and I think it will keep getting a lot of wear, and I'm hoping this could be a bit of an heirloom piece. I don't think it's one I'd ever get rid of. It's my first time I've ever tried steeking. I'm really, really proud of it. I don't think I would do anything different if I knitted it again. I wouldn't change anything, which isn't often that I say that about something that I've knitted. I just really like everything about it, but it's fit-wise, it's very simple. It's a tube that goes straight up. The arms are added on. So there's not a lot that you can do wrong with the sizing unless you knitted it, you know, much too small. The button band looks like double knitting, as in like the technique double knitting rather than the yarn, but it's just very, very, the 3mm needles were used for the button bands, and it's very, very fine ribbing there. I don't know if you can see that. Ooh, yeah. I did have a little bit of a hoo-ha getting the buttonholes and the buttons matched up, but we got there in the end. I had to be very disciplined and patient and not just try it like I often do and see how it works out. I had to measure and think. There's like a 4-row rib before you go into the patterning, and I was worried that was going to curl, and at first it did, but as somebody said on the comments, one of you lovely people on the comments reassured me that blocking would surely sort it, and it did. Oh, the only thing I've done wrong, I think, I've done the odd stitch wrong probably, but nothing that I've noticed and wanted to go back and Swiss darn over to fix. Is that the right Swiss darning? I think so. I haven't done enough, well, it doesn't matter, but on the sleeve there are fewer repeats of this little pattern than there are on the bottom. I'm supposed to have the same amount there, but I did it wrong on the first sleeve and then thought, well, it doesn't matter, I'm just going to repeat that on the second sleeve, and I don't think it notices. It works just as well. I'm really, really happy with it. So that is my Archer's cardigan. Moving on, I do have another finished object. I've really been going for it for a monogamous knitter, which is what I wouldn't say I'm now a monogamous knitter. I'm blatantly knitting like everything under the sun. I used to be a very disciplined monogamous knitter, but I appear to be branching out and just cheating on all of my projects, which is what it is in my head all the time. Yes, anyway, I have branched out, and I didn't even have this on my radar when I last spoke to you, but I have knitted, it's called the Lempi sweater. I'll put a picture of the pattern up here. It's by Sari Nordland, and what happened was I went to my knitting group, and it's run by a lady who sells, she stocks West Yorkshire Spinners yarn, and it's called Woolabaloo, by the way, and a lovely lady runs it, and she sort of always tempts us. We have like, we're in a community centre and it's really nice, and we all have lovely coffees and things, and everyone sits and knits, but she always stacks up balls of wool like that we could buy on the side, like to try and tempt us in, and this blue kept catching it. It caught my eye last time, but this time I sort of started touching it, which is always like lethal, isn't it? And it was the, I don't think I've even got a ball to I don't know where the rest of it's gone. No, this blue caught my eye, and it was the West Yorkshire Spinners Retreat. So it's a super chunky, and it's 100% wool roving. Now, from what I understand, wool roving is different depending on whether you're spinning or knitting. So this was a knitter's wool roving. I think it was just essentially a very chunky, unspun yarn. I think there was a slight twist to it though. I don't think you're, maybe it was spun. Who knows? I'll look it up. I'll put what the yarn is, and you can look it up if you want to. I can't show any because the jumper itself is blocking upstairs, and I'm leaving it flat. It's too wet to lift up and show you. I'll put a picture in of it blocking here. So I'm going to count it as a finished object, but I can't wear it to show you. I have worn it, but I haven't taken any photos yet because I was naughty and wore it before I blocked it. But yes, it knitted up really, really fast. It's because it's super chunky. I used 10mm needles. It's knitted bottom up in the round. I'm just picturing me starting it. And then you knit up to the armpits, and then you knit the sleeves, and then you join together, and then you whoosh around and you do the funnel neck or the turtleneck. I haven't got any turtleneck, so that was really good fun. I enjoyed doing that. And I used some short rows for the bust area. I don't think I really needed them because it's a bit oversized, but I've been listening to one Wild Knitting podcast that Jen and Bess, not Ben and Jess, Jen and Bess do the One Wild Knitting podcast, and it's a really in-depth about techniques and knitting, and it's two designers talking to each other about knitting, and I really enjoy that. And they have some really good advice on technique and shaping, and I think it's Jen that's always saying, you know, those short rows are essential if you've got a larger bust, which I have, but I've a small rib cage but quite a large bust. Those short rows are essential to stop tops from riding up, and I'd never really thought of that before. I always knitted them a bit longer to make it work, and so I'm experimenting now with adding a few ad-lib short rows, using normally German short rows into my knitting on the front around the bust area, just to see if that actually helps. So there's a bit more fullness in the knitting here, and then it will go in again where I need it to for the waist. So I've done that with this big blue jumper, and I think it's worked. I don't know how much difference it's made, but with it being big, but I won't know more till it's really blocked and I've properly sort of tried it out after blocking it. The yarn it's the colour that really got me. It's the richest, deepest, most vivid blue, and I love blue. It's my favourite colour, and that's what got me, and I got enticed in and I bought. So I saw this blue and going around the houses. So I saw this this wool when I was at my knitting group. I ended up buying, looking at the price, looking at how many meters there were per ball, and then did a bit of a Ravelry search, as you do, and found the Lempi sweater. I thought, that looks fun, I could knit that, I think I'll enjoy that. And yeah, just on a whim, just got a load and went home. I think I finished the sweater within, it took me about a week, but I wasn't knitting very much every day. I think a determined knitter would easily finish it within a couple of days. I couldn't knit on it for long stretches because I've had an elbow injury in the past, an overuse injury, and I think with the big needles, it was fun, it was satisfying to have those big needles and get those big chunky stitches, but it wasn't comfortable to sit and do for very long because it's a different sort of movement, isn't it? Plus I don't have any big sort of bamboo needles, which is probably what I needed for that sort of size. I only have my big chow goos, which are lovely, but they're very slippery, and the wool worked fine with them, but you had to sort of really try and grip to keep the wool on the needles sometimes. Yeah. So it was an enjoyable knit. It could be a very quick knit for somebody. I would recommend it as a quick knit. I think it's touted as a beginner knit. It is a free pattern, so you can just go online and find it. Yeah, I recommend it. I've had a really good time with it, and I can't wait for it to dry and me to wear it. So I'm hoping that the cold weather now stays so I can wear it, because when I was knitting it a couple of weeks ago, I was looking at the weather and thinking, well, it's spring now, I'm never going to get to wear this, it's going to be too warm. But there's no way it's going to just be warm forever from February onwards. I mean, often in this part of the country we do get snow around February, so not that I'm hoping for snow, but I am hoping for it to stay cold a little bit longer so I can wear it. Do I want to say that? Yeah. the lover of the gardening lover in me is vying with the knitting lover side, and then the knitting part of me is winning there. So on to the whips. My first whip is the Maud blouse. We are losing light, aren't we? Hang on, let's get back in the light there. The Maud blouse by Fabelknitwear. First of all, I'll put a picture of the pattern in. This has been on my SWIP list, my soon-to-be whip list, and I have gone on about it in previous episodes, but I cast it on. This was, when did I probably cast it on? Probably about 10 days ago. And this is what I've got so far. Look. I'm so close to finishing. It is so squishy. I am knitting this with Fiberspace Cumulus in shade Pearl, and that, as I'm sure you know if you've watched my other episodes, I always use this yarn and I absolutely love it. It's like a mohair equivalent. It's a bit thicker, a bit less scratchy for me. It's baby alpaca and silk. I've only recently realised it's a bit thicker than mohair, because this pattern actually calls for 2 strands of lace mohair, and I have managed to get away with using just 1 strand of the Cumulus, which is good for the wallet. And I'll put a picture of me wearing it half done up. It's when I had only had 1 sleeve done. And I don't know if you can see, but when I first finished the sleeves, hang on. Let's go back again, because I'm all over the place today. This is knitted top down in the round, and you knit the yoke, and then there's a complicated thing where you increase for the sleeves, knit in the yoke, and then you're supposed to knit all of the body and then do the sleeves. I knit half the body and then went on to the sleeves because I wanted to see how they would affect the length whenever it was all together, and I was excited because I wanted to do the pretty lace pattern on the sleeves. So the yoke it's got a lovely lace pattern, as you can see. There's going to be 2 little buttons at the back. I've bought some little pearl buttons. It's going to look so cute. Don't know what they are, but I'm sure I'll show you when it's all finished. So there's going to be 2 pearl buttons there. You can have more buttons if you want a higher neck. And you've got the lovely lace detail there on the yoke. I did have to rip back maybe at least once on this, because I got quite far and then realised I'd done like one hole wrong, and I just knew that if I didn't go back and fix it, I would regret it forever. So I did. I was very disciplined. I went back and fixed it, which is not easy using this sort of yarn. It's not quite as sticky as a mohair, or maybe it is. It's really hard to rip back, and it's hard to do lace in as well, but this is a very easy lace pattern. It's every other round that you actually do things. It's only yarn overs and knit 2 togethers, but it's just pretty. And then I really like the way the pattern's written, but I do like the way that Fabelknitwear, she's not called Fabelknitwear, but that's the name of her company, I suppose. I love the way that she talks to you in her patterns. She doesn't spell everything out for you. She sort of tells you why you're doing something and what the aim is. In each section there's a lot of text without going, you know, knit this one and this one. You know, it's a little bit more free and easy, and which sort of suits the way I like to think and I like to knit. I don't know if I've explained that very well, but I enjoy the way her patterns are written, speak to me, and I enjoy them. So yeah, there was some increases for the sleeve, fluffy sleeve, and then you knit it for a certain amount of time, and then you decrease in a little bit of ribbing in here. This is going to be pulled in a bit more with some fine elastic. I don't know if you can see that when it's done. Then there's lovely lace detailing on the sleeve and some yarn over rows here to finish. I did on one of the sleeves, I had to rip back because I finished the sleeve, the first sleeve, and I'll show you the picture. I don't know if you can see in the picture. That's what I was going to say before. I cast off too tightly, and there's no instruction saying don't cast off tightly, but I really wanted like a flared, flowy end to the sleeve, and I'll show you, put a close-up of that last photo in here. When I cast off originally, I cast off with the same needle size and the usual annoying tight way that I do cast off, sort of, yes, I've done it, cast off attitude. And it was just pulling these in again, and I thought that's not really how it's supposed to look. So I thought, well, I'll leave it for now. I'll do the other sleeve, cast off more loosely and see if I like the look. So I did this sleeve, and then, was it this sleeve? Well, I did the other sleeve, and then I cast off using a 5mm needle, and that gave me the effect of it of being like that, which is what I was really looking for. And I was like, yes, that's what I want. So I knew I had to unravel the cast on the cast off of the previous sleeve. Oh, pulling out this yarn, I don't know what it was. In theory, the way I'd cast off, it was standard cast off. You know, you knit 2, you put one over the one you've knitted, and then you knit another one, put one over, you're just folding stitches all over each other. And in normal yarn, you can just go and it would just whoosh off and it would be fine. This does not work. Also, the previous row to the cast off was a lace row. So there were yarn overs, there were knit 2 togethers, and if you pulled too hard, you would lose everything. It was my own little slice of hell. It took probably a good 2 hours, seriously, to rip back just the cast. All I wanted to do was rip back the cast off row, and it took so long. And then I had to make sure all of the lace and the yarn overs were in the right place. And if you've ever tried to rip back lace and then catch yourself in the right place, you'll know my pain. If you've ever done it in this yarn, you will also know my pain. Put them together, multiply them. Anyway, it was worth it because I managed to get the same effect in the end that I wanted on both sleeves. This is a frothy, lovely light knit, and the other issue I've had, and this is not the pattern's issue, this is my issue, the pattern is very clear that it's supposed to be cropped, and it looks really great cropped, but I am not a cropped top person. I was when I was 19. I'm not 19 anymore. I've had 2 children. I am not wearing anything cropped and I'm quite long-waisted. So I knitted it about 3 centimetres longer than recommended, and then decided I was going to do a long piece of ribbing at the bottom because that worked really well for my zafted tee. And I knitted it to roughly the same. I got that out and I measured and everything, and I thought, yeah, this is about right. And I knitted it, and it was probably down to about, I don't know, to here. Tried it on, and then you can see the picture. It was much too short and still very, very cropped. And I think the reason is this is 0 ease in this pattern. I knitted it with 0 ease. I was quite careful about it. I knitted it again with some German short rows for the bust shaping, but I knitted it with 0 ease, confidently assuming, almost confidently assuming that the nature of this yarn is it drapes, it is likely to relax, it's not going to be too tight. So I imagine this yarn will grow a little bit. I'm pretty sure it grows a little bit on blocking and on wear. It's very, very drapey. So I'm not too worried about it being 0 ease. I quite like a little bit of ease, but I thought I'm not going to knit it with ease. I'm going to knit it to exactly the specifications and then accept what I hope will be the slight drapiness, relaxing the fit. Where was I going with this? Anyway, because it is knitted small with 0 ease, it is, you know, very narrow. And when you put it on and you have a load of ribbing and you put something on and you stretch it, it stretches out great, but then the length gets shorter. So I think that's what happened there. Now, some bright spark on Instagram, I posted this on Instagram, was like, I was saying I'm going to knit it longer, and they said, are you going to rip the ribbing back? And I was like, you'd think I would. Common sense, is it common sense, logic, aesthetics maybe, dictate that I should rip back the ribbing, and maybe I should have done, but no. I thought I've ripped back enough on this, I'm not doing it again. I don't mind the ribbing starting really high. It's just going to have a really, really long ribbing section because when it's stretched out, it'll look shorter anyway. So I was too stubborn, basically, to rip back like I probably should have done. And I have merrily continued. Oh, I haven't dropped a stitch. No, I've merrily continued. Really, I'm only hurting myself because I'm had to carry on in rib and it's taking forever, and I used smaller needles for the rib. So for the rest of the body, I used, I think it's 3.5mm needles, and I am using 2.75. What are these? Hang on. Well, they're either 3.25 or 2.75. I'm using a smaller needle, sorry to be vague, for the ribbing. And ribbing takes ages in the round, I find, so I've only got myself to blame. I am so close. I think I've got 5 more rounds before I would cast this off, and then hopefully it will be the right length. And I'm really, really excited to see what this looks like when it's blocked, because I think it looks really great now, the lace. And you know what, lace only gets better when it's blocked. Lace just really comes to life when you soak it and then pin it out. So very, very excited to see what this is like. I think this could be a lovely work top. I want to wear it with some high-waisted, wide-legged checky brown pants that I've got. So yeah, that is my Maud top. Very happy, as you can tell as well, with that. I thought that would be a quick knit. I don't know why with all the lace. In my head that was going to be, shortish sleeves, it'll be quick. It's not a quick knit, but it's an interesting and engaging knit, and using that, the fabric, the yarn I'm using, sometimes it's tricky to knit with, you can't go as fast as you want, but the fabric you get is just so wonderful from it. It's like a cloud, it just makes it all worth it. So that's that one. My second whip is again one that wasn't even on my radar the last time I spoke to you. I am knitting the Una socks. Just check my notes here. The Una socks by Umi Knits. These are from my 52 Weeks of Socks book. And I am using some yarn that I bought from Wool Mouse, the little shop Wool Mouse. Is it called Love Hand Dyed yarn? It's a little shop in Stanhope, which is in the North Pennines, a little village in the North Pennines, where we like to go. And I bought this yarn. It's the colour burgundy, purpley burgundy. I bought this about 3, maybe 4 years ago, and thought that'll be nice for a pair of socks for me. I want a pair of socks in this, and then never ever did it, never used it. So I finally got around to it. And part of the reason for this was I was having a bit of a moan at my knitting group about how I really like socks. I love knitted socks, but I'm really struggling I take ages to knit them. I think I have the second sock syndrome. And I was talking about, I'd seen a tutorial by the Crazy Sock Lady about doing them 2 at a time, but I still couldn't quite get started and get my head around it. So one of the ladies in the group was actually knitting socks 2 at a time, and I watched her for a bit and I was like, oh, well, I can do that. And I used the Crazy Sock Lady tutorial. I properly did it instead of just watching it and then trying to remember it later. I properly did it, like start, pause, and I've managed it. So I am knitting 2 at a time. I'm really proud, and I do think that this could be the way ahead for me personally for socks, because I should be annoyed that this is taking so long, because normally I would have already finished one sock and be a little bit into the next one, but I would be grumpy about knitting it again and going, oh, I've already done this. So this is really good. I don't know if you can see the pattern. It doesn't show up brilliantly. I don't think it will until they're on. It's a lacy pattern. It's like squiggly. It looks like lacy cables, but it's just made with knit 2 together yarn overs. It's really clever. It's involved. It's pretty. Can you see there? I don't know if you can see properly if it's focusing. It's pretty. And I've just turned the heel. I thought that would be harder than it was on 2 at a time. I didn't even need the tutorial for that. It just, for me, it's just where you decide to have the edges, where you decide how you decide it. And I think I've managed it. I can't really explain it properly, but I'm happy so far. I'm just doing the gusset, and then I'm a size 4 foot, which is quite smallish. So I am optimistic. The pattern I haven't memorised the pattern yet, but it's quite simple, but I have written it out. I think it's an 8-row pattern, because it would be easy to be confused about where you were, and also this yarn's a bit dark. I have written it out. Because it's a pattern in the lovely book, and the book kept flipping shut when I was trying to follow it. So in the end, I just put it on a bit of paper, did a little chart, and just copied it. And I've got my little magnetic Cocoa Knits board. I've got my little magnetic ruler, and I move up, and it makes it really easy to see where I am and what I'm doing. And these are shamelessly selfish knitting for me again. All of it today is for me. And I'm really looking forward to having these done, because I think I was saying I love lacy socks, and I knit lacy socks for other people and grumble about them and then don't knit them for me. That's crazy. So I'm showing myself some love and knitting myself some beautiful lacy socks. So that's them. This is, I should say, it's 100% wool with, well, 98% wool. It's got a little bit of nylon content, so it is a designated sock yarn. My third whip is the Blank Sweater by Kim Hargreaves. We have talked about this in the last episode and probably the one before that. It's from her book Form. I showed you this last time, but just in case you didn't see, here you go. I'm knitting this in Rowan Alpaca Classic in shade, oh, it's a green. It's a lovely green. It's the romantically named shade 00110, so almost like a like a binary. It's green. It's Alpaca Classic, which is superfine alpaca and cotton. Can I read the percentages? 57% alpaca, 43% cotton. But it's I think the alpaca's almost woven around this blown tube, so it's actually really, really light. Now, last time I spoke with you, I had knitted the back. It's a bit scrumpled from being in the project bag. This is the back. Very light, very airy. I think it's going to be snuggly and warm. And now this is how far I have got, not as far as I would have liked, because obviously I've been distracted with other things, but this is the front. So I'm about a third of the way through the front. I am using I've just lost the stitches. Hang on. 3.25mm needles, there you go. Which means that I've used 3.5 for my maud. There you go. Nearly end of a row there, but I had to put it down. So I am plodding along with this. I'm really enjoying this. It's my plain knitting, and it's normally when I'm out and about in meetings and things like that. And I don't know, maybe I haven't had as much training or meetings as I usually have, but I do want to get this done this side of spring. I think it would be a really good transitional piece as well. I know this is a higher neck, but it's light. I think it could be worn outside maybe when it was still quite cool, and I do think it'll be a nice light one to throw over dresses and things like that, and jumpers, dresses and jeans and things in the evening in the summer. It's probably going to be okay. So I'm looking forward to wearing this one. It is a lot of stocking stitch. It's very, very plain, but it's easy to get into a rhythm with it. So I probably just need to sit down, concentrate a lot more energy on it, and it'll get done. So they are my whips. I won't show you my other whips, which are now hibernating, because I haven't done anything on them. I've got my Cozy Light sweater by, I think it's Jessie Maid Designs, and my Half and Half wrap by Pearl Soho. They are not in the naughty corner, they're just waiting for me to have more time to devote to them. And definitely the Cozy Light is more of a transitional one, so I would prefer to finish that in maybe March or April anyway, because it's quite thin. It's going to be about, I think I'm doing long sleeved, I've lost track of what I'm doing, but it's not one that I would necessarily want to wear in the winter. I would need another layer on top, so I thought I'll prioritise the really cosy ones for this time of year. I also have one hibernating in the corner over there. My Sea Glass tea was about halfway through when I put it to bed. Yeah, to hibernate in the autumn, when I realised I wasn't going to finish it in the summer, last summer. So that will be coming out again soon as well. For my swip section, my soon-to-be whips, I should probably stop doing this because I always give more potential whips than I maybe have a hope of completing, but it's sort of like a shopping list, a window shopping list, a dream list, and sometimes the list of ones I've got the yarn for, but it doesn't mean I'm going to be knitting them very, very soon. So just one this time though, and I'm sorry if I've mentioned this before, I can't remember all of the ones that I've mentioned in my previous episodes, but I really want to knit this at some point, the Flowering Vest by Dario Tubiana, and I've got Dash Rossa Cardinal. So it's a white vest with beautiful flowers embroidered on it or intarsiaed on it. I think they're embroidered. I really like embroidery. I'm not brilliant at it, but I enjoyed it. I used to do cross-stitched embroidery when I was a bit younger, and that looks like a really cool, fun summer project as well. Oh, lovely springtime little pullover. I should be doing more neutrals and more basic staples because I always get excited about colourful, floral, patterned things, and then I don't have enough things to go with them. So I keep thinking I should be knitting a plain vest or a cabled vest in a grey or a black, so I can wear it with all my shirts and things, and I keep getting sidetracked like a magpie looking at, but look, all the beautiful things I could knit as well. Not that plain things aren't beautiful, but all the more intricate, exciting things I could knit, and that is one of them. So that is on my radar very much. I haven't got the yarn or anything, but I've got that in my queue. I could have just called the swip section my queue section, but swips is just a more fun name, and I get to say swip. I don't really do acquisitions because I'm a project knitter, not a process knitter. So I always look at what I want to be knitting next and then think about the yarn to get for that, rather than get the yarn and then plan. Usually, not always, usually. I go off topic all the time, that's why I've got notes. So just life stuff. As you can probably tell from my voice, I've been unwell. I think I had COVID and or the flu. I didn't do a test for COVID. I've got to the point where I can't be bothered anymore. I just sort of kept myself at home and tried not to infect other people for the most part. But it wasn't as, I've had COVID a lot worse than that before, but it was a case of I couldn't work from home because of the brain fog. I was well enough, luckily, to lie on the sofa with, I watched Gilmore Girls. I binged that. Oh, it was so great. I could watch that. I could lie on the sofa and I could knit and look at socks and knit and things, but I couldn't talk. My throat was terrible. So I'm just getting over that now. And yeah, but we had, whilst I was ill, my car was broken into, so that was great. And they think they tried to steal it and they didn't manage to steal it, but it was really annoying because I called the insurance company and they came to give me a courtesy car and take, my car's called Gary, so they tried to take Gary away to the garage to get him fixed. And the alarm wouldn't stop going off when we were trying to get into the car. It's all long, because the car lock had gone. So I managed, like, my boyfriend's dad had the idea to get the key part out of the electronic key, like the physical key part, lift that out, because you'd have to unscrew the key, and then physically lock it because the lock was left but all of the surround had gone. That's how they got in, because they couldn't pick up the car for quite a few days and I was worried about leaving it just unlocked outside the house. So I managed to get it locked in the end. And then when they turned up to come and get it and they tried to unlock it using the same method, the alarm went off and it wouldn't stop going off. And I was like, what? I haven't left the house. The car's outside the house. Somehow these people have got into the car. Why is the alarm going off now? What is the point in that? And it clearly didn't go off either at all or long enough for anyone to hear it or wake up in the night. But yeah, you know, you can't get into it to take it to the garage without it shouting at you. So I was just like, luckily there were two men sorting it out as well, but I was just like, this is stupid. So yeah, but I mean, it'll all get fixed. It's just a bit annoying. And I think it's probably my fault. I've got a Fiesta and a Ford Fiesta, and I don't think they make them anymore, so I think they're more vulnerable now. Anyway, you don't expect car chat, do you, on a knitting podcast? But on top of that, just as I was just turning a corner, I'd still been off work, but I was pulling myself round. But James went out for a run. That's my partner. He loves running. He's quite fast. He's really good. But he went out. Normally he's gone for about an hour when he goes out for a run, and he said bye. And about 15 minutes later, he came back in, and I was like, "Oh, you were quick. Are you all right?" In between coughs and things and my tissues. And he was like, "No, I've been run over." I was like, "Well, why? What?" So it turns out he'd been running around the block, and he hadn't gone that far, and he'd gone across. There was someone parked up. We thought they were parked up about 2 meters from the junction, a little junction to a car park, and looked like they were parked up. But as he ran across the road, they just decided to pull forward into him. So luckily they can't have been going more than 10 miles an hour, but they sent him flying. I think I thought at the time he'd broken his elbow, but when you're running, your adrenaline's going, so people nearby helped him up, and the person driving the car got out. Are you okay? And he said he just had to keep walking around in circles because he thought, I can't just stop. Just going, I'm fine, and then he ran off. So he came back, and so I sort of mopped him up, and I was like, I think we need to ring an ambulance. And he was like, oh no ambulances. And I was like, oh. So I compromised. We rang 111, which is like our non-emergency number, and then he was trying to make me do the minor injuries option, and I was like, no, we're doing the significant injuries option because your elbow's a funny shape and there's blood on you and you've got bruising you've just been knocked over by a car. So obviously there's me, like, my throat wasn't as good as it is now, and it's like I was saying this with like really hoarse voice, and honestly between us I had one fully functioning person at this stage, and he kept marching around the house because he was pacing because I think he was in pain. Then it was going to be then the lady on 111 was really good, and she was like, yeah, we need to ring the police, we need to do this, we need to do that, and she was like, I'm going to send you an ambulance. And then it was going to be 3 hours for an ambulance. So at this point James's dad was on his way over, so I said, well, we can get a lift up to A&E. We don't need an ambulance, and then you can give the ambulance to somebody else that doesn't have someone ready to drive them, because I wasn't well enough to drive at that stage. But anyway, it turns out he dislocated the elbow. It popped out, it popped back in again. Really painful, but he was okay. They thought he had a fractured bone, but it turns out he's okay now. So yeah, it's been a really ridiculous week. But we're really lucky. Everybody's fine. Just bruises for James, and I'm coming around now, back at work. Could have been a lot worse. The car's being mended. I've got a courtesy car, which is really lovely. So I feel really lucky, actually, all things considered. And the kids are fine. So, you know, it could be a lot worse. And hats off to poor old George for doing all the driving. But yeah, it's just been a really ridiculous few weeks. But I got a lot of knitting done, so on the sofa while I was ill. So you've got to look on the bright side. I've got a very annoying habit of looking on the bright side. Anyway, looking forward to spring. Spring is in the air. I've got some time off in March so I can get more knitting done. I'm going to do the garden. I'm going to go out and see my friends and go to York and hopefully do some nice things with James if I can catch him in between shifts, and possibly the kids, although they're back at school and college. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate all your comments and all the lovely things that you say. I'd love to know what you've been getting up to and what you're knitting on at the moment. Have you got any springtime knits in mind? If you want to follow me on Instagram, I am Melmade at mellyart13, and my handle on Ravelry is mellyart. And if you want to like and follow me, subscribe on here, that would really help, because I think that is what the algorithm elves like. And I've got a plan that if I can get to the point where I've got enough followers and I've got enough watch hours, I would monetize and do the adverts. But that's because I want to raise money, because my sister's little boy, my nephew, he has something called Smith-Magenis syndrome, and it's SMS for short, and it's where there's sort of learning delay and potential learning difficulties and some sort of the way they're processing information via the brain. So it can be quite a profound disability. He's a gorgeous little boy. He's 3. But what I was planning to do was, if I can get to the point where I can monetize my channel, I can donate the money that I make to the charity for the SMS charity. So that is my plan. So anyway, if you would be able to like and subscribe and share, that would be really, really helpful, so we can actually get to that point. And yeah, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you ever so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.